if you're not comfortable speaking in English or writing, that's totally fine. Just leave your message in Bengali on our chat box. We'll get from there. And I request all of you to keep your mic mute when Aga is speaking. So in that case, no interruption, we'll get no interruption. So I welcome our speaker today, Agnieszka. You can call her Aga. So thank you so much, Aga, for joining today. Will you please introduce yourself?
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And before maybe we jump, let me just please share my screen. That's going to be a challenge as always, I guess. And if I'm going to play my presentation, probably you should see it. Can you see it perfectly right now?
Yep.
Yes, we can.
Perfect. Great. Okay, so again, guys, thank you so much for having me today. And I think from this very first several minutes of talking, I could see and I can understand that you're at different stages of your career. So some of you are working already in the design field, while some of you are thinking about joining it. So I really hope that each of you will find at least something small interesting in this webinar for yourself. That's what I aimed for. And it's super nice to meet you. I'm so sorry that, you know, because of those circumstances, we cannot meet like in one place. It would be so much better if we could have like this meeting in one room. But if for whatever reason you decide to come to Sydney, just give me a call and we can grab a coffee. So at least this one we can, you know, at least this time we can meet face to face. And yeah, so let me maybe introduce myself a little bit. Unfortunately, I cannot hear from all of you, but then let me talk. So I hope also that a little bit of my background will let you know and will assure you that you can always upskill, that really you don't have to finish really expensive UX research courses somewhere then in the US or in Australia to do your own research. And maybe you'll find it interesting enough. Maybe you'd like to try it yourself, or maybe you'd like to change your career. So go for it. Yay. As you can see from my bio, and maybe some of you are going to find it surprising, I didn't finish any design studies at all. So I was working as a journalist for almost a decade, and as hard as this job was, it really took me to the place where I am now. So it really helped me to land up in this career, in this particular place. So the journal job actually helped me to listen to people carefully, but also to ask the right questions. And I feel that's the clue of the research, and that's the clue of the UX research. And just in 2016, I started to move my career towards UX. So all of you who are thinking about it, there's never too late to do it. And when I moved to Australia in 2017, I started to work for the biggest Australian retailer as a UX CX researcher, and well, here I am. And in my daily life, I'm a little bit messy. That's why I decided to keep it really nice and tidy, at least this time during this presentation. So I have prepared a really short agenda for today. And we'll start with some introduction of what UX research is. I know that many of you know it already, but I think it will be nice and handy just to recap it. But I also would like to explain when actually use it, UX research, and how your company or your career can benefit from doing it. Okay, so maybe, well, let's just start and let's just jump straight to the very first point. And I promised to explain you what a UX research is, but I found this job offer online and I thought, well, this is gold. Like, I have to show you this one. And that's the job opportunity I have found online. And unfortunately, still a lot of job offers looks exactly like this one. I say unfortunately, because I've got a feeling that UX research is still by some considered as just like a small additional part of the design. And quite often, still in many organizations, you can hear, you know what, let's just do a bit of research, or you know what, just do this, let designers do some research, or maybe some extra research. But as I prove you later, unprofessional research sometimes could be more harmful than no research at all. So as much as UX should be the part, and UX research should be the part of designing, like in general as a process? Well, to be honest, it needs totally different skills, and it uses totally different tools and it needs totally different unique skill set. But why, right? Like, why should it be part of the design, you might ask? Because we design for humans. That's what I've heard for the very first time on my very first classes of the UX research course. Guys, you are designing for people. They are real people on the other side of the screen. And the main purpose of the UX research actually is to introduce those humans' insights, those humans into your design process. So normally every researcher would start with some kind of like super simple yet really critical questions, just to understand who the users are, right? So what they are doing, who they are actually, why they're using our website, or why they decided to use our particular product, right? And that's a funny thing which I've heard, actually, I honestly heard it last week from one of the professors at university, and where I'll be also speaking a little bit more about UX research. And she told me, you know what, one of the biggest problems for us is that our students are coming with some research we ask them to do, and they're coming with 3 pieces of the research. One is from their mom, the other was from their dad, and the third was from sister or brother or, you know, a friend. And I think it's really important to stress it out and just to underline it 3 or 4 times. So asking your colleagues or other designers, it's not good enough. You know, asking those UX research questions to your friends and calling them, oh, they are users as well. No, that's not gonna work. When I mean users, I really mean real people from outside a project who will use or who you wish to use your product, but who can really bring this new and fresh perspective. So it really means finding and exploring and really talking to the people who are there in the world, who would like to use your website you're creating or the product you're working on. And just after this really good understanding who those people are, finding them and asking to join the research, then you can start doing your own research. And believe me, me as a researcher, I'm not using Axure, as you can see in this job offer I previously showed you, and I'm not using Sketch in my everyday life. We are using totally different tools, but also totally different methods. And that's the one I found online, and I find it really, really interesting. Looking at this graph, it was created by Christian Rohrer. You can see more or less what I'm doing in my daily life. So more or less all those things at some point, at some stage, they're over there in my work. And I know that for some of you, it's not new. Probably some of you already know it, and some of you probably did some surveys in the past, or focus groups, or maybe lab tests. But I think it will be worth just to explain it a little bit more and maybe go to 2 or 3 different methods. And I think it will also show you what I do in my daily life, because I have some nice examples over there. And as you can see, the whole graph is kind of like divided into 4 different areas. So they're like 2 qualitative and 2 quantitatives, but at the same time, they are behavioral and attitudinal research methods. So as I mentioned, I just would like to explain a little bit more, but before we jump into that, I think it will be really, really worth to explain the difference between quantitative and qualitative research, because that's going to be our baseline. That's where we can kind of start exploring from there. And here we go. So as easy as that. That's the whole explanation. That's the whole theory you need to have. The easiest way to understand is like quantitative. It's more about numbers and stats. So it kind of helps you to understand how big the issue is, or how big the general kind of conclusions you can find in your project. While qualitative, on the other hand, well, that helps you to describe and understand the topic and measure it a little bit more, find which language your customers are using. And those different research methods that are the quantitative or qualitative ones, they should not be treated separately. So in my daily work, I work with a super talented guy, Mike. He's master, and I mean a master by combining those 2 methods. So for example, in one survey, So he will be asking a lot of questions around quantitative data. So that helps us to understand how many of our customers, for example, are shopping online, right? Just to kind of understand us how big the number is. Is it like a trend that is growing? Or maybe people just, you know, are sick and tired of online already and they would prefer to go to store. But at the same time, he would be talking to us, he'll be talking to our customers and trying to find answers of the language they're using. So for example, describe in your own words what the back order process means to you. So last time you purchased with us, you actually had some problem with the back order, what it means to you. Do you understand what happened there? So I think it's always good and kind of remember to kind of join those two fields together, and then they are the most powerful. Okay, I'm talking a lot about theory. I promised you examples. I'm not giving you many. Here we go, the very first one. Let's start with quantitative and behavioral research. And I think we could start with A/B testing, as some people call it also split testing. And I'm pretty sure most of you have heard of that already. It's a process of showing two variations of the same web page or the same comment to the customers, but to different segments of visitors who are visiting the page at the same time. And later, the whole work of the researcher, for example me, is just to sit down and kind of understand what are the numbers. So which variant drives like more conversion. So for example, for the retailer like us, which helps us to sell more or which attracts our customers more. But obviously Harvey Norman is not the only company that's doing that. And a big company that does a lot of A/B tests is Netflix. So I've heard a meetup they were on, they were talking about it and they were giving different examples. That's the example which I actually found on their tech blog. I will provide you all the links to this talk a little bit, to this resources a little bit later. But Netflix use it and Netflix does it a lot. Who doesn't use Netflix? I think more or less, most of you guys, you know what a Netflix is. Yeah, here we go. I can see some hands up in the air. Yes, mine are also going after the air. Absolutely love it. But I'm not sure if you know that Netflix actually A/B testing you all the time. And it offers some of the content you're having over there based on what you chose in the past. But the example which I would like to talk about is this documentary movie, The Short Game. It is a great documentary movie, by the way. It's about the little guys who are golfers, like an 8 or 10-year-old golfers who are playing golf almost professionally. And when you're sitting on your couch and you're turning on Netflix, you can see, like, obviously the name of the movie, but also some artwork in the background, right? And I'm not sure if you know, but these artworks, they're like tons of them. A lot of them, and different audiences are getting different artworks in the same time. So basically, based on that, Netflix can understand which of the artwork seems to be working better for them. Simply, which is so attractive to the users, to people who are watching it, that it makes them watch it again and again and again. Does it make sense? I hope it does, more or less. So yeah, as you can imagine, Netflix ran thousands of those tests, like every minute. And they end up with tons of data to analyze. And because we're getting so much of those data, you know, A/B testing is considered to be a quantitative research, but also behavioral one, right? We know how our customers are behaving. And to have some comparison, let's have maybe a look at a little bit different kind of like a method which you're also using, and probably which is not so popular as A/B testing, only because it really requires a lot of work, believe me. It's so much harder, yet it's super insightful. So field studies, also known as contextual inquiries, that's the type of the research which I love personally, because I did it tons of that during my studies. So I was finishing ethnographic studies, ethnography and anthropology. So basically what we did during our studies, we've been traveling to remote parts of Poland, to the small villages, and we try to understand how people are behaving in some celebrations, for example, or my particular topic, which I absolutely loved, was the influence of media to the people in the small parts of Poland. And obviously you can read a lot about that. Probably you can, ask people living there, but if you go to the village and if you talk with those people, if you enter their homes and you see that the TV is in a very central place and that you can see that, well, it's on all the time and people are kind of commenting what is happening on the TV, well, that kind of changes the way you understand and you see the reality they are having, and it helps you to research much, much more. And I think I know what you're thinking at the moment. It's like, what it has to do with the UX at all, right? Like, well, believe me, it does. And I'm going to prove my point now. So let's say you are designing a new self-checkout kiosk in a JB Hi-Fi, Harvey Norman, whatever store comes to your mind. Self-checkout kiosk where basically you're coming, you're scanning your products yourself, putting them in a cart, paying, going out, right? And sure, you can test it in the UX lab on a computer in a nice cozy place. So the person who you'd like to test it with, if they will come, you will make them sit on a comfortable chair, and then you're going to have a chat. You're going to give them a glass of water, and you're going to then you're going to show them the screens of the self-checkout kiosk, and the person's going to tell you what they see and how they would behave, right? You're going to have someone as my colleague here who's going to take notes. We're going to ask some extra questions. You can do that, right? But hey, that's not how the store looks like, right? In the store, it is louder. In the store, there is a different light. There might be, a mother with a 3-year-old kid shouting just behind you, and the kid, you're tired, and you're like, look at this lady, she has a jacket. Probably she had a long time at work, and it's hot in the store. She's in a jacket. She holds something, under her arm, and she has a bag in the other hand, and yet still she has to do some shopping, right? And so imagine yourself, you're still in this queue, you're waiting, you've got your new laptop under your arm, and you have to follow instructions of the self-checkout kiosk on the screen. So yeah, it's different, isn't it? I think you are getting my point. The UX lab will not help you to understand all the issues that customer might have or the user might have. But, I've got a small task for you, because don't get me wrong, it doesn't mean that you should not be doing the tests in the UX lab at all. No, it's not what I mean, right? There are a lot of possibilities, and think about it, like, you've got like 30 seconds to think about what things you could actually test in the UX lab. Is there anything maybe that comes to your mind? You can just maybe put it in a chat in a Zoom and we can discuss it later. Think about it, like think of what actually you can test in the UX lab. Okay, time's off. So in the photo I have presented to you before, this one, we actually did the test of the checkout process as well, but that was online. So simply on a computer, we ask our customers, so here we go, that's like several screens, show us how would you purchase this particular product? How would you go through, and from the moment of choosing the product to the very end, to the paying for it? And that makes sense, right? Because they are not in a store. They are sitting in their own, on their own couch, at the desk. They are having a computer simply the same as they would be doing at home, but they are doing it in the UX lab, where still we have a lot of opportunities to ask some extra questions, where it would be like, so what was the problem like in here? Or what is the biggest pain point? Like, was there any step unclear for you? How would you rate your journey in here with us? Was it okay? Was there any moment of the journey when you feel totally lost? Why you didn't pay with a PayPal? So you've got all those extra questions where you can actually ask in the UX lab. So, well, it makes sense to do it in the UX lab. Okay, and here's one tip to you, the sooner you start creating some prototyping and the sooner you start doing your own research for the products you are thinking or you're preparing right now, well, the better for you. Please don't wait until the whole, checkout is ready, the whole kiosk is is ready, and it's designed and it's ready to go to the store, and then it's like, it didn't work the way we planned. You really should be doing the research as like some prototyping as soon as possible. And in Harvey Norman, we're extremely lucky because we've got super talented people who can actually do, any screen we want to test, and they will prepare some really great prototypes for us. But I do understand that's not always the case. So here on the left, you can see me like ages ago with still different glasses. When I was working on some kind of idea that startup had, and that was the bot, the medical bot that helped customers in some era to do the consultation with the nearest doctor. So the idea is great, but the guys actually didn't have much money to prepare the great designs. So what we did, and they asked me to help with this one, it's like we literally tested it on a pieces of paper. So we kind of created the bot's answers on an orange one, and we were talking to the people and understanding how they would react to those kind of questions or to those kind of information they would get in the real app. And on the right, there are some prototypes. It's a really interesting article by Adobe. I'm going to send it to you, the link also a little bit later. And as you can see, just a piece of paper is just enough to prepare some prototype and to do a research actually on this particular piece of prototype. So you can have someone telling like, okay, here we go, that's our iPad. Imagine that's an iPad. Where would you click to log in on this one? If you would have a screen like that, where would you search for the answers you're looking for? Where would you find the information about this company, about us, right? Please show me. It doesn't have to be a super, high fidelity prototype. It can be a bit of creativity, and you can have an iPhone made out of paper. So here we go. Those are examples of behavioral research, which I gave you, right? Where customers were showing us how they behave. And I told you already, this kind of research will give you a lot of insights. They're going to be really, really rich one. And you will see how they behave. They are super powerful, but unfortunately not always that's the case, right? Not always you're going to have the very good understanding of how customers are behaving. Sometimes you might be just thinking and maybe just exploring the market a little bit, right? Or, maybe sometimes it's just enough to ask them, hey, how would you behave in this one? Or, which other programs do you use this? And you think like, well, it's not like UX research itself. It's more like a CX, so customer experience. So, tell me a little bit more about your way to work. If you're thinking of planning or creating the application for for public transport, right? Or tell me a little bit more, or how often do you use online for shopping? The question we are asking quite often to our customers to understand if we are going into the right direction. And so for quick comparison, let's maybe do the surveys, which is quantitative research, but attitudinal as well. So it's not about behave that much. It's about you asking them and hoping they're going to give you the right answer. And from my experience, they normally do. So I've prepared this example for me. That's from Twitter. And the question here is about emoji, right? So how often do you tweet with emoji? And again, a small task time, because I don't want you over there to fall asleep. So just, let's move our brains. Can you think of any reasons why they might be asking such a question? And I don't know the answer. I'm not working for Twitter, but I can assume that maybe they are thinking about introducing some other way of, tweeting with emojis, right? So before they start to do all the hard work of designing, they're just checking their market first. Does it make any sense? Like, do people use it a lot? So
Or
I
maybe,
think it's also,
or maybe
sorry.
they're, yeah, okay, sorry. Maybe they're planning to, put some quick emojis, just, you don't
Exactly.
need to fun, just tap it and then it will
Exactly.
be there.
Exactly. So like before they really like commit themselves in a huge redesign process, well, they have to first check if that makes sense, right? And I think it's a really, really good moment to introduce you to the bias questions, something which is a kind of important thing, but also a big, big problem in the research. So here we go. We got a first question, which is like, how often do you tweet with emojis? And the question which I prepared for you is like, the other question is like, do you want us to create a new and fast way to use emoji in a tweets? And believe me, when I do the surveys, because I do the surveys all the time, just to understand how other people are doing it, they are quite often questions which have some problems in it. Do you know, or do you maybe understand, or do you think about any problems which actually this particular question on the right has? There's nothing wrong with the question on the left. Let's agree to that. There are some issues with the question on the right though. So just think about it. You've got 15 seconds. What is wrong with this question?
So in the right side, right?
The right side. Do you want us to create new and fast way to use emoji in the tweets? And I'm going to give you a note just right now. Okay, Asif, go ahead.
No, let's try with other people as well. See what others are thinking. Anyone?
Yeah, sure. If you want to yeah, tell me if there's anything like, what is wrong with this question? I know you know that. You're just too shy to say it out loud. Anyway, at least two things are wrong with this question. First of all, the researcher, for whatever reason, decided to ask here about new and a faster way same time. So imagine the situation that there is a person who hates new stuff on Twitter. It just like me, okay? Like I've learned something once and I'm happy to do it for the rest of my life. And I hate when something changes, right? But at the same time, I love when things are a little bit faster than normally they are. So in here, well, how should I answer this question? Is it yes for, it's not a yes for both of them. It's yes for sure for fast one, but it's not for new. Well, but because I want things to be happening so fast, I'm gonna click yes anyway. First, bias, right? So the data is skewed already. And the second one, and that's really important, and everyone does it in our lives, and I did it in my research as well several times, it's you're asking a leading question. And I'm gonna give you a question right now. Hey guys, do you want to earn more? Obviously, everyone wants to earn more, right? Oh, the other would be like, do you want to have a fast, do you want to get faster to your work in the morning? If someone would ask me a question, do you want to get faster or like commute faster to your work? I would be like, hell yeah, obviously. But the customer or the user is not thinking sometimes about the consequences of the choice. If someone's gonna tell me like, do you get faster to your work? I'll be like, obviously. But if I know that it's gonna cost me twice that much, well, probably I can stick to my 45 minutes I'm commuting right now, right? So just make always sure that you're asking the good question. So the good question is like, how often do you tweet emoji? And out of that, you're getting some sense and you're getting some understanding, rather than asking the bias question like, oh, do you want to earn more? Yeah, of course I want to earn more, right? Okay, so I think I gave you several examples of different methods. And I think more or less you know how my work looks like. I do a lot of surveys, believe me, a lot of them. I do a lot of lab tests, talking to our customers, basically on a daily basis. I do interviews with them. And it's not only about UX research, but also customer experience as a whole, trying to understand the whole journey with our brand. And I think after what I present, I hope at least, that some of you can find 2 or 3 benefits of the UX research already. Well, but because it's a topic of my presentation, maybe we should skip to this part right now as well. So why UX research does really, really matter? And first of all, I really believe, and I'm honest with you, I really believe it has a power. It's a powerful tool. Research is so, so powerful. And that's going to be not the UX research example per se. That's going to be more like a life example. But I think it will beautifully prove my point. So every of us knows that smoking is harmful, I assume, right? Well, that's a fact. Like, let's not discuss with a fact. Like, smoking more or less is harmful. And you might read books about it, you might read articles, and a lot of smokers are still like, yeah, okay, harmful, okay, nah, you have to die on something, right? But I think you're gonna agree with me that statistics are quite eye-opening. So if someone's gonna tell me, you know what, 10 out of 10 of our users, 10 out of 10, they absolutely adore this application. Or they said like, 100% of our customers told us this chocolate is beautiful. I would be like, oh, just give me this chocolate. Take my money and give me this chocolate. I want to try it, right? Because like 100% of the people told me that, right? And when you hear and when you read those kind of statistics, when it's like, you know, that every 1 in 5 deaths annually in US is caused by smoking, well, that makes me think, right? That makes me think like, is the smoking really so not so bad as I think it is? But again, what I think it is even more eye-opening, and even it helps me to understand it even more, it's this real person example. So talking to someone who really been there, like getting into their shoes and understanding their position. And I'd like to play you a short video. Again, it's not the UX research per se, but I think it really proves the point. It's a heartbreaking video. So if you are not very good with a heartbreaking video, or close your eyes, or go and grab a cup of tea. It's just a minute and 10 seconds. So you've got a minute and 10 seconds if you're too sensitive. If not, I really urge you to watch this one.
I had chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, includes emphysema, chronic bronchitis, and full-blown pneumonia. I have to run around with this cannula on my face. It tells everybody there's something up. And some of them are actually bold enough to ask, you know, why is that? And I tell them, I just tell them straight out, you know, it helps me breathe, and it's because I smoked. Instead of now trying to decide, okay, where can I smoke? When can I smoke? I've just put new things, and it's how much oxygen do I need? Where am I going? And it's always going with me. I'm used to, you want to go do something? You get in the car, you go do it. Whatever it is, you're able to go and do that. But I cannot be without the oxygen. It goes with me. The option of taking off the air and continuing forward with me does not exist.
Yeah, I've watched this video, I think, already 20 times, and it still gives me goosebumps. Like, it's putting yourself into someone else's shoes. It's empathy, which is, I think, the biggest thing, and why actually, what makes customer research or UX research so powerful. It's this empathy which kind of creates when you're watching the videos like that. And let me maybe put that into the context of UX research. And I think after understanding and having this empathy with us, it will be even easier for us to understand this particular point which I have in here. So some time ago, I did a research where one of the tasks for the users was to allow settings, like a flash in their settings. So the whole page, which I've been testing, that was in a flash, unfortunately. And the stakeholder didn't seem to see any problem with that. It's like, well, we explained them, right? Everything is here, how they have to turn on the flash, and it should be easy for them. Still, a lot of people really struggled with that. So we did a test, and 7 out of 8 of our customers absolutely struggled with, changing the settings over there. And actually, we had one person who, after I think 2 minutes of really trying, he said, you know what? I don't want to do this test anymore. If that would be a real life, I would just finish it. I would just go to the other page. I'm so frustrated with just the very first task of it, which I want to remind you, that was actually the real life thing, the real life page that was taking money from the customers to do some stuff. Well, the guy said, like, I would just go and I would just find another page. I would just do it somewhere else, right? So on average, customers spend, I think, 3 minutes just to enable this one thing that actually helped them to get to the page. And again, I promised you the example. Here's the one. And I think, again, put yourself in a position of this person. The person really wants to buy something from this page. They really want to do it. They probably have a birthday of, their niece coming, or there's, some important event that is coming, and they want to have this particular present bought from this particular page. But they are entering the page, and that's what happens.
Our first line is this flash.
Everything seems to be written then, right?
So I just need to change some settings on my computer to be able to.
And I think you've got my point already, right? It's painful to watch it. She's struggling. Like, that's our user. She wants to, she wants to give us her money, and she wants to finish one simple task, but she cannot do that. And even like, if you listen to the language she's using, right? She's saying like, I just have to turn on this setting. I don't know where to go. What's that? Like, yeah, I have to turn it on. And she even doesn't know, like, it's flash, right? You can absolutely hear, and it's painful to watch. And also the other examples, which I'm not going to present to you, it also shows like customer or a user who's over there, and he's like, oh, I don't know how to do it. I'm just like, I'm sick and tired. I don't know. I don't like anymore. I'll just go somewhere else. And I promise you that if you're going to go to your boss and you're going to tell them, you know what, I think we should be changing some settings, or, we should be moving from Flash to HTML5. They would be like, yeah, okay. If you're going to go with some statistics in your hand and tell them, you know what, we did a research, and 7 out of 8 of our customers, they really struggled. Plus, please watch this video. Put yourself in a position of this customer. Put yourself in a position of this particular user of our web page. Well, I promise you that there should be a little bit of empathy over there, and hopefully you can see some changes in your project or in your company. Okay, second benefit of the UX research. It helps to understand you if your idea you're having is a really good one, if you're really having a great idea. And yeah, I know that most of our ideas are brilliant, right? we love our ideas. And I've read somewhere that on average, every adult, so guys, every single of us, we had several $1 million ideas in our lifetime. Wow, right? And probably that was one of the ideas that the founders of Shoes of Pride hope to have as well. And for those who never heard of the Shoes of Pride, that is a startup that actually helps people to make their own custom design shoes. Cool idea, right? It's an amazing idea. Problem is they didn't test it very well. So sure, they asked people, hey, and they potential users, they potential customers, would you like to do it? Would you like to design your own shoes? And people were like, yeah, sure, obviously. Well, but designing a shoe is not as easy as that, right? You have to have a really good understanding of materials. You have to make sure that the blue color you're having on a screen is the same blue, beautiful color of your beautiful favorite bag or dress or shoe, whatever, right? You have to understand the sizing. It's not easy, right? So even though they might have the beautiful web page and the great experience of the web page, well, the idea was there, but it didn't work out very well. So actually they closed their business in 2019. And as you can see, the CEO of this particular startup, the Shoes of Prey, she admitted it. Well, there was idea. We should have been testing it a little bit better before. What else? So it's not only 2 benefits of the UX research I found for you, I've got a bit more. The third one is this actually kind of like helps you to understand your own product better. And it helps you to have a little bit of a better, fresh perspective. And again, a story, an example from my previous research. So once I was also involved in redesigning the page, and I'm sorry guys, I cannot provide you with the names in here. Basically of the NDAs, but believe me, that's true. It happened. So once I was working on some kind of a page where actually which helps the people to tweak their photos a little bit. So you could upload a photo and you can blur the background, right? Or you can change the colors, or you can put a sepia, and then you can print it. And I was extremely lucky as a researcher because the owner of this whole project, she understood, well, there are some problems. She could see that there's a lot of people who are dropping out of the cart. She saw that there is a lot of projects which actually started but never finished. So she's like, well, let's research it. Let's understand, and let's put some understanding. What is happening? What's wrong with our page? And I used this page, and then I had a really nice conversation with the designers. And well, that was a totally different story. So I went with them and I just had a chat, and it's like, hey, you know what? I tried to edit some photos on your page, but it seems it doesn't allow me. And they were like, oh, you know what? Because you have to unlock the photo first. I'm like, unlock the photo? Okay, unlock the photo, no problem. But how do I do that? How do I unlock the photo? And it's like, oh God, you have to click this little lock in the left corner of the photo. I was like, oh, so you have to unlock each photo to edit. It's like, of course you have to. And I'm like, okay. And then where I can find some extra options to edit it, it's like, you have to press a hamburger menu, right? So it's, like for them, it was obvious. And for them, they were pretty sure that they know what they are doing. But honestly, many customers struggled. And actually 6 out of 7 of our customers had some problems with this one. And I think you might be thinking, okay, what's wrong with those designers? They should be knowing that, right? But, well, that's where confirmation bias comes in place. Confirmation bias is kind of like a tendency for us to search or interpret things in favor of what we know already. So if we know something and we take it for granted, then we kind of think that everyone around us thinks the same. So those guys, the designers, knew exactly what a hamburger icon is, right? And they knew how to use it. But they didn't thought about my mom. My mom has no idea how to use it and what this menu actually is. So I think, look at this photo, and I'm going to be really short, really quick with this one. The designers were, let's say, on the right, seeing 6, while my mom, she was on a 9, and she was seeing 9, right? So both of them were right. But because of the different things and the different experiences from their own lives, they could see the things totally different, even though they were both right? Okay, try to track the time, and I promise you I'm not going to be that long with otherwise. other ones. UX research saves you money, and please don't let anyone to tell you that it's different. It is much cheaper to test your designs and to test your ideas than like putting them in real life and then do some costly repairs. Again, not more than market research and a UX research per se, but I think it really proves my point beautifully. So in 2019, the manager of Walmart, which is a huge retailer in the US, they decided they need less cluttered stores. So they asked people, do you want our stores to be tidy? And people were like, yeah, sure, we want it. So they did. They invest a lot of money in cleaning out aisles, lowering shelves. They changed the feel and look of the whole store. And then customer came and they're like, oh, that's not the store we know and we are used to. It's too clean here. Where is everything, right? So they actually, in 1 year, they got 1 billion lost in revenue, according to some market estimates. So I think you agree that UX research would be cheaper, if that would be a good UX research, and customer experience research, probably they could save a lot of money. And please don't allow anyone to tell you, oh, we don't have money for that, it's too expensive. When I was a student, literally what I was doing, I was standing on the street and telling people, hey, you know what, I do have something in here, like I've got a survey, or I have, the small paper prototype. Do you mind sparing 15 minutes of your time and I'm gonna buy you a coffee? And it worked. So it doesn't have to be really expensive. And I just had the ridiculous amount of coffees back then, but yes, it works. Research helps to position yourself and your brand in a market. And while doing the research, I'm quite often surprised that customer tells us, that the solutions they already like, that are working for them. So maybe you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Maybe maybe some answers are already there, right? So I did it when I was doing the wish lists. I asked my customers not only to test and go through our wish list, but I told them, you know what? Show me your favorite wish list. I would like to show you how you're using it. And they were clicking through the wish list, and I was like going step by step with them, kind of understanding, okay, so how do you add the new things to your wish list? How do you remove things from your wish list? And they were like, you know what? That's super simple. I'm gonna show you. Or they were saying me, you know what? That's the feature I hate about this wish list because I cannot remove it easily. So I'm not telling you that if a customer tells you, oh, that's good for me, that you have to reinvent the whole page. We don't want to have the second JB Hi-Fi. We want to find our own path that's going to work for our clients, but maybe some answers are already there. So for me as a researcher, that was a gold piece of information to know that actually something works for the customer already, right? They are users of so many different wish lists, and some of them work for them. Why not to ask, what is that? Why not to ask, hey, tell me, what is working for you? And the last one, okay, I'm tracking the time and I think I'm kind of like up to it, maybe a little bit too long, but we can still make it. UX research shows your customers that you really, really care for them. Okay, and I think of the last time you went to some page that absolutely didn't work. So you went to the web page and you couldn't log into it. You couldn't find information you needed. So you wanted to contact those, those guys from this web page or find some pieces of information, and you're like, oh, it's not here. Like, I really try, but I cannot find it. Or again, non-UX research example, think about the last time when you went to have a coffee in the coffee place, and the coffee was horrible and the staff was horrible. They were, not friendly at all. And think about your emotions, right? You've been like Joey. It's like, oh, I want to tell them that I hate them, but you had no idea, you had no possibility to do that. And then imagine that someone from this web page, this particular product, online product, is coming to you, or this application is coming to you and telling you know what, it seems it didn't work for you very well. Tell me what was the problem? What was the main point? What you've been looking for? And it's like, I tried to contact you, but I just cannot find the place to contact, like the information to contact you. And or think about, you know, the coffee manager is coming to you, the coffee place manager is coming to you and it's like, hey, we are so sorry, we know we fucked up, but you know what, tell us what was the worst thing that happened today for you, or what was the problem. And I bet that you will start to behave a little bit differently. You'll think like, okay, someone cares for me, right? If the UX researcher will reach to the person who actually didn't manage to finish their journey, or the customer experience researcher will gonna contact the customers because they are so unhappy and they left a horrible review on the page, they would be like, okay, someone really tries over there, so maybe I should give them another go, right? Maybe they're really not that bad as I think they are. Maybe they're really trying to be better. So I really think that sharing possibility to, you know, going to your customers out there and telling, you know what, hey, we care for you. We want to make this, we are doing this research for you, for the people like you, because we care, because we want our product to be as good as possible. Well, I promise you that it also makes a huge difference. It shows those people that, well, you're there for them. And so that was like a long journey with me, a lot of talking, but I hope that you've got some questions over there. The 6 benefits, let me just maybe sum it up really, really quickly. Empathy, and I hope that this example of the woman who tries to turn on something on the page is gonna stay with you for a long time. Just think about your users, how they feel. It helps you to validate your ideas. So even if it's not like particular UX, or you might having some UX research issues in the future, just because maybe the idea is not there. Helps to understand your project a little bit better. Helps to understand how others do it. And sometimes the desk research is not enough. Just maybe you don't have to reinvent the wheel. Maybe answers are already there. And makes your customers feel so much better. So it's powerful. Use it and go for it. And do the UX research, do the customer experience research, and enjoy this journey. And if you have any questions, let me know. Thank you.
Thank you, Aga.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for your presentation.
So much talking.
And obviously you'll be talking. So yeah, I mean, I really like the idea that, like, you know, human insights into the design process. So, and that is very, very important, and very important for all design professionals. So obviously you can see that, like, Aga has explained that what is UX research, why does it matter, and she has used some like real life examples to you know, show that, like, you know, to make it more clear.
Hopefully it worked for you. And
yeah,
I know, and I do understand that not all of them were particularly just the UX research only, but I think because we've got here like a variety of audience, I was thinking like maybe if we can just, you know, mix a bit of UX research, but also the examples from the real life, which, you know, proves some of the points, hopefully. Yeah, I thought that would work for all of us.
No, definitely. I mean, we also have received some questions from our chat group. So yeah, excited. I'm going to ask one by one, maybe, and then you can start answering, and maybe a few questions. And these are very basic questions, which is really, really important, I think. So you can answer if you feel like you cannot answer, then just pass it, no problem at all. And we can get back to them again later on.
Yeah, just remember, I'm not a designer. If you're gonna ask me about Axure, I'm not gonna answer this question. If you ask me about Sketch, I'm not gonna answer this question.
Don't worry about it, because there are some other people here, those who are also UX designer here, and other from other disciplines, so they can also answer. So it's like a very like a collaborative question answering session. So if anyone wants to add anything, you can add. If you're still not sure about any slides that Aga has discussed, so please feel free to ask. You can ask in Bengali as well, no problem at all. And if you want to ask in English, obviously. And also, Okay, so right, let me go through one. Okay, so I'll just combine two questions now here, Aga. So first, okay, is there anyone who wants to ask question here live instead of
Yeah,
chat
I
box?
can go for it if you want.
Yeah,
Sure.
please, Shabir.
Yeah, sure. Hi, Aga. It's Shabir again. So
Hey, Shabir.
yeah, my
Don't
first
give
of
your question. It must be the simple one.
yes, I'll make sure about it. First of all, I would like to thank you for your session, and it was really a very informative, and I learned a lot from this session. So yeah, I have a question for you. So it's like currently I'm working in a software development company in Netherlands as a senior UX designer. We have an online product, and as a company, we are very much focused on quantitative method rather than qualitative. So yeah, that's the question. We always work and believe in all kind of like metrics, like survey, analytics, A/B testing, and etc. We actually don't do much qualitative research at this moment. So I would like to know about your thoughts about it. Like, do you really think it could be an issue for not doing any qualitative research in any company?
That's a great question, but I think it really depends on the product and actually what you're asking. What do you need to know, right?
Yeah.
If there are like some things that you're worried that your customers are not understanding, that there is no understanding of, for example, language you are using, that would be a little bit hard probably just to get it from the numbers, right? You can ask those questions in a survey, but I think it will be still kind of like interesting to hear from your customers how they feel. Like it really depends what your problem lies again. So just trying to think about some example, like the back order, for example, process. You can easy you can easily find answers in the numbers and in statistics that for some company has 60% of all the products are actually back ordered, which means that customer can order it, but they cannot get it straight away. They will come to the customers a little bit later. And okay, you've got the numbers, but what are the reasons behind it? Is this number just good enough for you to make any action? Or maybe it is worth to, just to reach to several of those customers and ask them, hey, what happened? Do you have this knowledge in your own organization to kind of justify the 60%? If so, maybe you don't have to do the research and qualitative one. Maybe, quantitative is just good enough for you. But if you try and if you want to get this core of the answers, why? I would say that A/B testing sometimes will not give you the answer why. You can see that 60% of those customers prefer this particular movie in the Netflix, but why? Well, A/B testing will not give you that, right? And obviously you cannot base all the research on only answers of the 2 or 3 people. But if you really think about introducing qualitative research on a kind of like monthly, yearly basis, whatever, then I think it's really worth to do it again, like, quite often to just to understand and to get your main core. Why it's happening? Why it's not working for someone, right? So I hope it answers your question more or less.
Yeah, I believe so. I mean, yeah, that makes sense. Totally.
I just want to add something, Shabriba here, because, like there are so many projects, because me and Aga work in the same team and we share a lot of stuff. So there are so many projects comes to UX design team first to implement anything in the website. But sometimes we feel that, it might not be a good idea to just implement and do UX research, like interaction design research. Then we get involved with the UX research team. So then Aga starts and her team, they starts planning for the whole the qualitative research for that particular project, and then they bring us or share the what you said, they share the overall insights of that particular project, that okay, whether people want to use this or not. And then from there, we decide that, okay, maybe the company, they are, I mean, what they did, they want to, you know, do a partnership with us. It is beneficial for them, but not for our customers, not for us, for our company.
Yeah.
So that type of insights we actually get from qualitative research. If you would not engage our UX research team, then probably we would say, okay, they are approaching, let's install third-party, you know, softwares or the vendors and, you know, with them probably we will both make money. But in our case, it sometimes not happen. So those are the insights and insights we get from the UX research.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and
absolutely.
there is another example which comes to your mind. For example, something which is called in the business, among all the different businesses, customer satisfaction rate. So you can see that, you know, 80% of your customers are happy with your particular product, with your website you're working on in Netherlands. But what about the other 20%? They're unhappy. What happened there? If you want to explore it a little bit more, all you can see is the number, right? 20%. But if it's just enough to ask them question, hey, what did we do wrong? Or, you know, how, explain what is your, explain your experience with us. Tell us a little bit more. And here you go. Like, it's analyzing tones and tones of text open and text questions. That's another story. It needs a lot of time and a lot of coding involved in this one, or a lot of extra softwares. But it is so insightful. It could be a game changer for you. So imagine of, you know, 80% of happy customers and 95% of happy customers, because you cannot always aim for 100. There's always some people who are unhappy. Yeah. But, you know, 20%, that's a lot. What happened there? What is the problem? So I think just having the numbers will not be enough.
Yep, true.
So how many people do you recommend to start with for qualitative research? Like
that's the one thing which I learned from my experience in here and from my extremely perfect, wonderful mentor I had in the past. Candice told me, you know what, the moment you feel you're not learning anything new, just stop research. That's the moment for you to stop research. And I'm not telling, of course, 1 or 2 people, right? But if you're having already 6 interviews, 7 interviews, 10 interviews, and you see, okay, there is some pattern, that's for you probably a way to explore a little bit more. And again, don't stop over there. Just go and ask some extra questions. Maybe it's worth to, you know, send another survey and just go a little bit deeper and just, you know, and then after that, again, do another round of interviews and talk with those people a little bit more. I think it's a really powerful, it could be, again, a game changer.
So basically, like, we can start with 5 to 10 people, and then if we see that more insects are coming, then probably we'll increase the number of people.
Exactly. But don't stop over there. If you feel like, well, probably there's still a little bit from us, still more to learn, maybe you can do another round of the interviews.
Right. Cool. All right. Does anyone have any question?
I have one more question, but I think I should give opportunity to others to ask question now.
No, that's fine. We have time, so Shabir, you can ask.
All right, I'm taking all the opportunity now.
That's fine. Maybe this question might be common to other question as well.
Yeah, so. True. Well, I think Aga already mentioned about it during her presentation. But I just wanted to make sure that people understand it properly. So I'm going to raise this topic one more time. So yeah, I mean, there is a lot of misconception regarding why and how to implement both qualitative and quantitative methodologies. Many companies and team believe it is too expensive, time consuming. Even sometimes we think it's somebody else's job, it's not my job, you know what I mean? So absolutely. Yeah, so what's your thought about it? And do you really think research is too expensive and time consuming and etc. So what's your thoughts?
I think that many companies really cannot afford not to do research. Okay, not to do the research. So if they would be, and if they think like, if they tell you like, we don't have the money for the research, I think that the other question is, but do you have enough money to, you know, to make sure to act when your idea failure? So just think about the shoes of prey again. It's a great example. Like maybe testing it a little bit earlier would save them, basically, the company, right? So I think it really depends. When you're saying like we don't have the money for the research, it doesn't have to be something super expensive. If the good research can be done cheaply or on really like not a big cost. I know time is always an issue, and I do understand it. But then always think, what's the worst can happen, right? If you're working on just a small feature, maybe you can tweak it a little bit later. But if you're working on some kind of like a big redesign process, really you should consider research over that. And simply because if anything goes wrong, that will push you back not only 2 weeks that research can last, but 6 months back. Because of all the work that was done already with the redesigning, all the money that went into development process. So think about it. Is it, do you really have time and do you really have money to repair it later? I think that's the biggest question. If you do, if you think that the risk is small, yeah, go ahead. But if you feel like you really want to have some answers, good answers before you go into the market, maybe it's worth investing money and time in the research. And I've got actually another example, which I'm thinking of. I was working in one of the product which was introducing some new insurance in the market. And they came to me and they tell me, you know what, we know our audience and we are doing it that and that and that. And I said like, okay, sure. But I did my own research as well. And I told them, you know what, let me just double check if the audience you are thinking of is really the audience you're having. And apparently the audience they were thinking of, it was literally like 20%. 20%. After the research we did, we just actually realized that there is much more people who would be interested in this particular insurance, but they were never taken into consideration. Why? Well, because no one did that research, because they assume they know their audience, right? Yep. So I think it's kind of like, just think about like what worse can happen. That's the phrase I quite often hear from my partner when I'm stressing a lot. It's like, what worse can happen? If there's a lot of a stake, it's worth to do research. If there's just a small tweak in a design, what worse can happen?
Yeah, very true.
Cool.
Thanks for your answer. Probably I should stop now.
Thanks everybody for you asking. Yeah, this is not a problem. It's not a problem to ask questions. So I'll move to next question, which was posted in our chat box.
Yeah.
So next question is actually I'm combining 2 or 3 questions.
Sure.
So what is UX research versus CX research and UX design, UX designer?
Yeah, that's a really good question.
Also, someone asked like, and versus UX architect. So let's not cover the UX architect at this moment. I think we can focus more into those 3: UX research, CX research, and UX designer.
That's a great question. I think I was thinking about actually introducing one slide about that in my presentation because I know that for some of you it might be a little bit confusing, but then I thought like, oh, time, you'll be talking too long anyway. So and I removed it, but maybe I should have keep it in my presentation. So probably some of you think like, oh, yeah, UX research, customer experience research, is there no just one research in general? And the easy answer is yes and no. UX research and user experience researcher and a customer experience researcher are doing a little bit similar stuff, a little bit different. So user experience as such, it's a term that was, you know, invented a long time ago. That was in 90s, Don Norman. You've all heard of the guy. While customer experience, on the other hand, it's a little bit new term, and it kind of gained recognition, I would say, 10 years ago. So there's a different ways, and people are understanding it totally different. Like, for example, the Normal Nielsen group, they say like it's a different levels of the same experience. While from my own perspective, or from my own kind of like understanding, and the way I'm talking to our researchers, it's more like user experience is the experience of the user. So for example, for the company I work with, Harvey Norman, that's going to be us kind of like focusing on a web page, which is our main channel for the sales, right? And you can kind of like the good digital UX helps you to kind of like easy complete the task that your customer, that your user came to. So again, in my company, that would be adding things to the cart, paying for it easily, and that's it, right? Well, the customer experience researcher, from my understanding and other researchers' experience, it's a little bit broader. It's customer. You're not the customer the moment you're not the user the moment you're stop using the page, but you're still a customer, right? So I would say there's a different eras that kind of like overlap each other. Customer experience is more about the whole experience of the customer with your particular product. So it's also how easy for them it is to return the product later, or could they communicate to you, or how was their experience with you in general, while the user experience is more focused on this kind of like a products or things that like design the electronic the devices, things like the websites, and it focused more on the user that is using your web page or using your application or using your product. That's at least the way I understand it, and other designers in my era understand it. But as I told you, the more you read about it, there's every company probably has a little bit different explanation for that, and it's no matter how you call it, if that's a UX experience, if that's a CX experience, you have to remember that it's all about humans. It's all about introducing human insights into your design, introducing their thoughts about their design. And there's something else, service design. That's another kind of like a new term that it's gaining more and more recognition, when again, that's even broader. It's more about all the services that are designed around and all the big services that are designed around your huge company. So yeah, like you could go broader and broader and broader. Someone told me, a good friend of mine told me, you know what, 10 years ago, we've been all designers. Now we are UX designers, and some of them are like service designers. But I think, again, no matter how you call it, I think the most important is what you have in mind, and that you understand that it's that you are there for your customers or for your users, and you try to design and you try to make the design for them, working for them. So I hope
thank you. Well,
I'm so happy for this, like, because I had it in back of my head, like I should be explaining what is the UX research, what is the customer experience research, but then the slides were just too long anyway. Thanks for this question, great one.
Like these terms are like very much confusing. I mean, it's changing. The trend is changing. So, like 5-7 years ago, UX design, user experience design was like very broad. But later, like few years back, it's just now very focused, where the customer experience is actually considered as a big thing. Right. So the question was asked by KM Waliullah. Thanks for that question. And you also asked that which purpose are they different, and then what will be their actual work. So I think Aga has mentioned that the differences. I will just add very quickly that what will be their actual work. So as you, Aga, correct me if I'm wrong. So like, since we both work in the same team, UX designer, they usually, like, we mainly focus on the the product, like and when I say product, it's mostly like it's a digital product, like it can be app, it can be website, and for our case it's more of an app and website.
Yeah,
but
website.
whereas research, where AGA, they actually more deal with the human behavior, like why people shop, what they do in different situations, what after the purchase, what they think, all those behavioral thing. And for our case, as a UX designer, we more deal with UX, the digital or the the product. And sometimes we need to do some research, like usability testing, and then like planning for the test. So that on that time, I can consider myself a little like UX researcher, but not as like AGA type CX, but or customer experience.
We work perfectly on a one project. Remember this one with within our company. I think it's each of us could be a researcher, and if I like to say that okay, I'm putting my UX researcher hat when I'm exploring some new pages with our customers. But the truth is that in my general, like everyday work, it's more about CX. So not only this particular journey of the websites and validating if applications working with the users, it's more as you've mentioned, like why customers decided to buy with us, or which channels they managed to get to us. And it's as Shabir mentioned it before, it could be based on numbers, and quite often it is based on numbers. But sometimes it's just not enough. We just need to get this a little bit more insight and a little bit more into core. Why? What had happened there? What actually worked for them so well that they decided to, go with us and do the business with us?
And it is very hard to draw a line in between these three.
I wouldn't say it's one thing or another.
Right.
It's like kind of like eras that are overlapping each other, and it's
don't worry about too much about like what is the exact difference. You can get the idea, the differences, but there is no like exact line. Anyway, let's move to the next question.
Yes, let's move to the next question. So I'm combining two questions from Imran Khan and Mithila. So the question is, what is your process of incorporating a survey? What kind of tool do you use for that? And how do you take online survey these days to redesign an existing UX method? Which should he go for? Can you define that? Or should I repeat again?
Yeah, let's ask first two, I think.
Okay. Yeah. So the first question is, what is your process of incorporating a survey?
What is incorporating survey? Do you mean like putting the survey online?
Yes, kind of like that.
Okay, perfect. So basically, you might think that it's a really long process. It's not a short one. So basically, first of all, we have to understand what is the reason why we are putting the survey. Asking the survey is just, you can do that for whatever reason, but you really have to understand why. So normally what we are doing, we are having the brief with the stakeholder. There is some issue, problem, or something that a stakeholder wants to understand. So we're just kind of understanding, okay, so why you want to ask this question to our customers. And just after having this really good understanding, what is the reason behind it, you start creating the survey. And in here, again, first of all, there's a lot of questions about understanding your audience. Are you for sure getting to the right people? Is that answering your questions very well? Then obviously building the survey itself. And there were questions about the tools. Plenty of tools online. We are actually using something which is less popular, but because it also helps us with gaining our aims. But you can use SurveyMonkey, Google Docs, not into Google Docs, but it's called the Google Google something. You could use this one. You could use Question Pro. You could use, there's a lot of new pages which are actually using Google Forms. That's it. That's the one that came from so there's a lot of tools you could use online. There's plenty of them, and more are growing. This era of the business is really big. Then sending the survey. Again, it really depends which tool you're using. because we are having the tools we are paying for, and it's also combined with a big community of our customers. So we can easily feed any survey we want to have, and within minutes we are getting the very first answers and understanding of the problem. And then analyzing it. I think that's the hardest part, because you have to make sense out of numbers. And you've got like 7 or 8 questions, because obviously you don't want that survey to be too long, because just people then don't care. It's like, you're happy to answer, you have what, like 5 questions maybe, so you have to make sure that these 5 questions are really good 5 questions. And I mentioned Mike before, the guy I work with. He's a master in this one. He really knows. It's like when he tells me like, Aga, stop, okay, you're asking just too much. No one's gonna answer those questions. There are like too many of those. And then analyzing again, so a lot of numbers. You have to like maths to do that, and there's a lot of reading. But you might think, okay, it takes a lot of time, it's a time wasted. It's not, because it is time you really use to understand your customers, to users, right, to understand what they think of. So yeah, after that we are putting everything in one nice simple report. And if you really want your findings to have some kind of recognition in the company, it's always nice just to not only send the email, hey, here's my report, but it's really good just to also present it back. Just, you know, have an audience, 3 or 4 people. It's like, hey, you know what, we found this and this. I'm not going to take more of that your time. 15 minutes is just enough. Let's grab a coffee and we're going to show you what we found in our research. So that's like a kind of like a debrief. I hope that answers the question about the process. I'm not sure if that's anything else you wanted to know.
No problem. I mean, let's move to the next question. If anyone has any question regarding what just Aga answered, if you're not clear.
Yeah, because there was a question about the process, but I hope that it kind of like answers.
There are
it's a little
so many
bit
questions now.
like,
I mean, I think it will be covered. So my next question would be again from here. It's like, are these all research methods like the one that you discussed, or those are only just most popular ones? And
okay.
This is what. And another question is, I think we can tie this up, which is like, what methodology are you following when you start UX research? So basically, it is asking. I mean, this question is saying that, you know, when you start the research, UX research, what type of methodology do you use?
Well, the type of methodology, it really depends on many things. Budget you're having, probably a little bit, yes. Time you're having, but also your questions. So again, it depends what you really need to answer, and then
so, like, if we break this down,
what is that? Sorry.
If we break this down, question, it's like 2 parts. If you have a less budget and less time, then how we start, and if we have a more budget and more time, then what?
Sure. Then the next question is like, what do you want to know? Because I think that's the most important question, basically, and based on that, I think it's, you know, it helps you to choose the right method. And I almost forgot, I took this book with me. It's about, it's called The Universal Methods of Design. But I think at least half of the book is just about the research itself. So they are taking the research quite seriously in this book. And it's hard to say like, oh, you know what, if you are starting to work within the UX research, you should be just doing surveys. That's not true. I mean, just explore your options, read a little bit more, because there is like tons of the research methods you could use. Obviously, the one I presented in a presentation, there are just several of them. Believe me, there is at least half of the book more. So, but yeah, probably start with something small, like, you know, start checking your survey, asking, you know, going with some maybe short surveys first, and then the last question goes like, hey, do you mind if I'm going to talk with you a little bit more? Then just schedule your very first interview. It's not as scary as you think. And at the very beginning, that's going to be bumpy. You're going to ask a lot of biased questions. And I think that's the big problem of many researchers who are starting. Every of us struggle with from time to time. Sometimes we want, the design to work and the questions to answer the questions we really want to be answered in a particular way. Just don't think that if you're just a beginner, it means that some methods are not for you. Because we have a different skills, we have a totally different skill sets, we are different people. For me, maybe, creating a survey is harder than talking to people. So, it really depends, first of all, on what do you want to achieve, probably budget and time a little bit, but also on your own personal skills. If you feel like you're good at talking to people, just, organize some interviews. And I know you think like, oh, it's so simple to say, organize some interviews, but it really can be easy if you do the very first step. So answer those questions. What do you want to know? And if it's more about the numbers, if it's more about like how many people over there are purchasing things online, or it's more about, having a little bit deeper understanding why they are purchasing online, or did anything change by when they are purchasing online because of the COVID, right? So maybe people are sick and tired of purchasing online because, they are spending just too much time online. So the method really, I can't answer this question easily, and sorry for that, but it's simply because you really have to answer, first of all, several really core questions.
So Aga, like if we do any course or if you have more knowledge about the UX research, then do you think that will help us to know that which research method should we follow? So like,
oh yeah, sorry, that's my confirmation bias. You see, yeah, because it seems everything is easy for me. Yeah, absolutely. Probably the more you are in the industry, you feel like, oh, okay, in here I think survey would be just enough, or like in here I think like, oh yeah, the interview, we have to run some interviews over there. I think the good thing is not only to stick to one method, always try to combine several of those. And please don't think about yourself. It's like, oh, I'm just a beginner. Obviously, you have to put a little bit of the lens that maybe it's worth to cooperate with someone more senior at the beginning, or just look how other people are doing, just to avoid some mistakes that every beginner does. But well, each of us were the beginner, at some point. So it's not impossible to do. Just do it. Just go for it.
Okay. So I got the one question that I also asked that, you have discussed few research methods in your landscape, the Christian Roper's. So are those the only popular ones, or is there any other we should follow?
Yeah, I think they are kind of like the most popular ones. There's so much more over there. Let me maybe go back to the screen with this methods. Sorry guys, if I make you a little bit
that's fine.
dizzy. It's so much more. I cannot see, there's a card sorting, for example. But for example, intercept surveys, you could probably find a lot of different intercept surveys, the one that you're not having basically like email, or you're not sending it online, but you're having it in the restaurant, for example, where your answer, or after in the venue where you're answering those questions. So there's much more. And again, I tell you, like at least half of this book is just about the different research methods, and those are the most popular, I would say. Those are the ones that kind of like helps you to understand a lot of things. So if you're interested a little bit more about research, I would really recommend maybe Googling some of those, and just see how other people are doing it. Read a little bit more about that. And yeah, those are I would say the most popular, but absolutely, it doesn't mean that they're all of those. It's so much more. They're like, some easy observation. That's also the type of the research that you cannot see it here anywhere, the easy observation. Or, I don't know, storyboarding. So there's much more, absolutely. Feel free to read about it. And, if you're interested, just, maybe invest in some time in researching before you started the research.
Okay, thank you, Aga. The next question is, I think it's similar. How can we decide which research method is suitable in which situation? I think, like this is, I mean, I know that this is a very common question. So the screen Aga is sharing here, it is actually got lots of different research methods. So if you go, if we follow that link in Nielsen Norman Group, which UX research method, I think they explain in detail about these methods and when to use. So I think you can start getting some idea about, like, research methods.
Yeah, because it's really so hard just to answer this question, like which method to use when, because it just depends. So it just depends. If you're, for example, if I can tell you, like if you really want to understand if the information on your page is really like on a good site, on a good place, maybe you should be trying eye tracking, right? So that's in a UX lab where you go and you can see where people are, scanning your page. But at the same time, I don't know, sometimes maybe the emails, like the same thing, maybe you can get in the email if you ask, hey, which of those, look at this page and tell us which of the piece of information was really hard to find. So it's hard to say, and it really depends on many things. First of all, it really depends on the questions you're having from the for the research. Yeah.
So, but easy answer is like, qualitative and quantitative research, which is very popular. You have heard about that. And then also A/B testing, diary studies, or like usability testing. These are like very, like you can hear more about these types of studies or research methods. So you can start from there, start to learn that, like, what are those methods and when to use those. Then you have some point about this UX research. Cool. So let's move to the next question, which is, I am planning to create a survey, but facing some problems with the answer options. Can you please give me some suggestions about that? So it's basically, she's planning, like, say, for example, I'm preparing some questions, and then what type of answer I should put there. So do you follow any rules or like tips? Do you have any tips?
Yeah, as long as they are not kind of like a biased question and they are giving your customer as much options as possible, or at least giving them an option to give other. I think that's what I'm gonna give you the example. So some time ago, I also did a survey where I don't remember the question exactly, but let's put it just like a dummy question. So when you're commuting to work, which one of those are you using? Is it a bus? Is it a train? Is it I don't know, the bike ride, or you're walking to the work? But hey, believe it or not, but there's a lot of people who are using plane to get to their work. So you always have to remember that all the options that it seems that you're having in your head in here, they are not all the options that are possible for the customer. So first of all, always try to give them a possibility to say other. Or, which is also happening quite often, you have to remember about customers who are, for example, not buying online, right? So, and it's also a real life example. So while, researching some online platform, one of the questions in the survey was, how often do you purchase online? Often, rarely, from time to time. Well, there are, no possibility for those who are never purchasing online. And there are some people like that. Don't assume that you know all the questions. So always give customers just this, or the people you're surveying, just this kind of like event to also, give it other. When you're designing the survey, the very first thing I would start with is just to kind of understand your audience. Demographic questions are good, absolutely. If you really need it, go for it. Ask some demographic questions, just not too many. Because after answering about my age, shoe number, my email address, where do I live, and education I have, I already don't want to answer the rest of the questions. So don't make it too long. Just try to keep it short, and grab the demographics you really need. But also I think it's really good to understand the general audience. So if you're checking some web page, or if you'd like to and the page is about traveling, maybe it's worth to understand if your audience is really traveling often, or if it's about selling the trips to the different countries. Ask them a little bit more and know your customers a little bit better before you jump into specific questions you really want to ask. What else, if you think about a survey? Yeah, non-biased questions. I think that's a big one. It's always good. What we are doing still, we are doing dry tests, dry runs. So we are sending the survey at the very beginning only to 10 people, let's say. And we see if we did any mistakes in the survey. And it's a gold thing, like literally, I didn't do that very much before Mike joined. And I think it's a great thing to do. Just to check first if you are getting the answers you're already feeling that there should be like that. And don't be afraid of the open-ended questions as well. You'll be surprised how much information, how much rich info you're getting and rich insights you're getting in the open-ended questions. So don't be afraid of those. But obviously, if you want and you have to have something really fast, the questions where it's like yes, no, maybe, they will give you also a lot of information. That's what Shabir mentioned before. It will give you more numbers, but I think it's maybe number is just enough for your research, right? Maybe that's what you're looking for.
Yes, Shabir, right. Okay, I think the next question is pretty similar to what you just said, Aga, that how to ask a good question. This is really important, and good question.
How to ask, believe me, I don't know. It's how to ask a good question. It's it's a hard thing to do. You have to put a lot of thinking, first of all, into it. And you have to make sure that you're really answering, the main question you're having. Does the question you're answering in a survey really helps you to understand what you try to understand? Because you can ask any kind of question. You can ask about their shoe number, but will it help you to understand why they are buying with you? Or will it, does it make sense to ask questions? Just make sure that you're not asking too many of them, just not to make them too tired.
Okay, and the follow-up question is like level up your, like how you level up your user research skills.
Okay. What works for you the best? For me, reading. Like I absolutely love. There is a book which I'm gonna add in the list of readings, which I think it will be worth for you to check.
Yeah, we also have a question. Which books do you suggest for beginners, UX designer?
Yeah. I'm gonna. No worries. I'm gonna send you the whole list. I've got the whole list with all the articles about the shoes of prey and about confirmation bias. So I kind of like put like in a nice small document, so you can. Asif's gonna send it to you probably tomorrow. Yeah. So there's gonna be some books and recommendation. What else? I think. Hey. Internet is such a huge vast thing. If you're going to find all kind of different things. Like you can find other people running UX researches online. Go to the meetups. It's a good one. Or find a mentor. That's what worked for me. And I still have mentors. And I'm not, I'm not ashamed to admit it. I feel myself, I'm just a beginner. When I see how other people are doing the research, I think like, oh, when I grow up, I just want to be like them. So maybe grab a mentor, maybe someone who does it for the last 20 years, and whatever question you're having, you can always go to them and you can always ask them. For me, as I mentioned, reading a lot. There's a lot of great books, but obviously books are not enough. Like books will not teach you how to do everything. So try to watch something, or maybe, you know what? Go for one of just sign up as a person to do the focus groups, right? or just take part in some research yourself as a participant, right? So let the other researcher do the interview with you, and then write down, okay, this question was biased, or like what he wanted to achieve with this one. Like, I think like watching how other people are doing that, and I'll be honest with you, I'm a sneaky person who does it from time to time. So I sign up for different, for different meetings online via Zoom, or when they're doing some research, and I'm just answering questions as a participant, as a user, right? But it also helps me to upskill. And it happened to me in the past that someone did such a great exercise with me, and I was like, why I never thought about it before? Like, I have to do it in my own research. So there's plenty of ways to do it. And obviously, if you want to do a course online or go for an expensive UX course, you're welcome to do so. But you don't have to do it to do the UX research, believe me.
But I think like if you work more and more and ask more and more questions, or prepare more and more UX research surveys, and then you will see that you are growing in terms of skill.
Absolutely.
So
but obviously you cannot expect that only by doing that you'll like magically learn how to do it. It's always good to have someone over there, just even to talk with the other person. Tell them, like, do you think that this survey makes sense? Just read it. Is it good enough? Then maybe the mentor would be the person you can go to, or maybe maybe you can find some information in books you're having. So there are so many different ways. I think the biggest issue is the time. You have to find a time to read all the books and to learn it all.
You don't need to read all the books and finish, and then you start.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You just start, and then you will face problem. You will see that you have done something wrong in your first research. You learn from it and then improve from there. That's
absolutely
one level your skill up. So I'm going to move to the next question, which is like a very common question and important as well, which is which tool or software do you use for UX research?
Oh, wow. A good one. Good question. Tons of them. They are available online. What we are doing, it really depends what type of method, what type of research you want to do. So for the surveys, as I mentioned before, SurveyMonkey is a good one. The other one would be like a Google Forms, works as well. We are using Question Pro, but they are also something which is Qualitative, I think it's called. So it also helps you to send the surveys. If we're talking about interviews or unmoderated user testings, which I think would be like even more important for the UX researcher, we are using Validately. So it's not I'm not trying to sell you anything, but I absolutely love it. I think it has everything that I need to do the, first of all, interview, so face-to-face interview. But it's quite expensive, I'll be honest with you. So probably not for everyone. So Validately, but also Zoom. Hey, I've been to many research sessions as a participant when they are just using Zoom or GoToMeeting. Besides that, if you need to find some people to answer questions, again, a huge tool and a huge variety of websites. The one I've been using recently, it was quite interesting one, was Askable. I think they're Australians anyway. So Askable is one where you can actually buy participants. And when I mean buy participants, they're like, people like you and me who just sign up and they are happy to spare 30 minutes of their time to talk with you because they're getting like, I don't know, $10 voucher or something like that. So Askable, Validately, UserZoom, that was something like that for some time ago, but I think they merged with Validately. And sometimes pen and paper is just enough. When you go to and you're meeting someone and you're just having a face-to-face conversation, or you're just recording, because your phone could be literally, that could be your most important tool, because you're just recording the conversation with the other person and then you're writing it down and trying to understand it. The other tools, let me think. Yeah, I think those are the most common. We are using a bit more, obviously, like there's specific software for the A/B testing. I don't know what exactly the software is as long as it works for me. So, so sorry, can't name you this one. But there's something which is called Zux. I know that I think they are European. I think they are based in Berlin. So they are helping to track the behavior of the customer on the page. So if they are like, if they don't know what they are doing and they are scrolling really rapidly on the page, it kind of like helps you to recreate that. For the eye tracking, because you can also like do kind of like a simple eye tracking online, we are again using Toluna or Question Pro. So there's a huge variety of the tools. Sorry, I'm talking too much, but yeah.
No, that's fine. So because we can list all these tools again, and then we can upload again.
Yeah. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah,
let me update my list and.
Yeah, top of your head is sometimes hard to remember, but I think you have mentioned most of the tools that we use. So the books will be posting the list of the books or articles, and then tools that we use. And then actually I'll be moving to the next question. So that was asked by Imran Khan. He asked a bit long question, but it's I think valid. So he's saying like, hi Aga, sorry for a long question. My question is,
no worries, I'm pretty happy.
If we intend to do some,
sorry, what is that?
If we intend to do some research in order to improve some features of an online-based platform, for example, a company who sells their service online, which research method would work better, qualitative or quantitative, or both? I think we have covered this bit by now. I mean, first of all, it depends. Maybe it can be both, but do you want to add anything, Aga?
Yeah, absolutely. If that's a particular web page, and if correct me if I'm wrong, but from what I understood, you just try to understand how users are using it. I think moderated or unmoderated user test. So basically it's, and we are using, as I mentioned before, Validately for that. It's a great thing where you're kind of like putting the link over there and you are sending the link to, let's say 50 people, okay, 100 people, whatever. What's your capacity and how many videos you can watch? And they can actually record the way they're interacting with this web page. So, and you can even leave them at tasks over there. So it's like, hey, in this task, we'll ask you to sign up to our newsletter on this page, or in this web page, we want you to purchase or pretend that you're purchasing a laptop, and just try to get from this particular laptop to the checkout. Show us how you do that. And this tool will record the whole journey for you, so you can get a lot of answers. And if that's not a thing for you, and if you prefer to meet face-to-face, even better. You're just asking, hey, do you mind, coming to our office? We're gonna give you like, I don't know, $50 gift voucher just to say thank you for your time. And you're sitting with this user and you're exactly giving the same thing. So, you know what, that's our webpage. I would like you to show me, how would you purchase the camera on this page? Or I would like you to create an account with us, right? And then you see how the user is behaving. You see like, I'm lost, I don't know what to do, or they are scrolling on the whole page and they're just like, what is here? Or so many things are happening on this page. And then you say, well, okay, that's the very first thing for me. Now I understand that maybe there is just too much info on this page. And then you can ask questions. So, but I see you're a little bit, it seems like you're a little bit lost. Why is that? Why you feel a little bit lost? Is there any issue with this here? Why you're struggling with? What you're struggling with? And I think then you can build a little bit of understanding. What is the problem over there? What are the design problems that you have to solve? So yeah, you can moderate it. You can moderate face-to-face. You can moderate it via Zoom, obviously. Or you can just do the unmoderated test where literally you're leaving the tasks, which is hard to do because the task must be really elaborate and short same time for customers to understand it, but it's doable. You can do it in a different ways. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you also have answered another the next questions of Imran, so which is he mentioned that yeah, it is a qualitative research method and it is not possible to meet the user in person. Do you think taking interviews online would be effective for this case? Or how
Absolutely.
do you research process? Exactly what Aga just mentioned.
Yeah.
So I just want to add or rephrase this is like, yeah, you can, I mean, if you can meet a person, 10, 20 people person, definitely you should do that. But sometimes it's not practical to go and meet those people because they are from different different places, and then they might be busy, this and that. But in that case, we do lots of online testing. So as Aga mentioned that moderated and unmoderated. So moderated is like you will be present, they will be using Validity or other software, and you can watch what they're doing and you can ask questions.
Exactly.
They can interact with you. That is moderated online. And unmoderated online, that is you can you have a set of questions, so they can perform those tasks by their own time, whenever they are free, but usually ask them to think loud. That means when they will interact with the system, they should say, okay, I am now going here, and then I'm clicking login. Yes, login pop up. I'm putting my username. So this is thinking loud. I mean, he or she doesn't need to speak, but if she speaks, then it helps us to review the test.
Exactly. And that's on your screens right now. You can actually see the screenshot of the user testing that was actually unmoderated. So as you can see, it says in here, hey, remember to think out loud. You've got a task in here, follow the mini exercise from the guide, and only when you finish every mini exercise, then you can click complete the task. And that's it shows them more or less how it shows you more or less how you can use it, and how it looks like, right? So you've got some person on the other side of the screen. They are getting tasks. After they finish or they believe they finished, they can click complete, and then another task is coming. So, okay, you purchased a kettle with us. Could you please tell us now show us how would you ask for to get a receipt, right? Or tell us how do you think we're gonna send you the receipt after this purchase. So I think it's in here. It is exactly the Validately, the one I told you about, and it's an unmoderated test. So as you can see, you can do it. We did it tons of times. There are some issues with this one, so customer or the user cannot understand the question. You wrote the question that you understand it, but user does not. The problem with the software, so they might have the version of the Windows that is not supporting, the Validately does not support. You might have them having a horrible internet connection, right? So that's why it's always worth then to send this invitation for the unmoderated test to more of the users, just in case some of them just gonna drop off for whatever reason, right? And internet connection, for example, is quite often when it's just, or they just got bored in the meantime, which also happens. I'm like, well, okay, can't be bothered, like switching it off. So it's doable. We can absolutely do the user testing online as well. Absolutely.
Cool. So I have got one last question. So I think maybe I have not gone through all the questions because somehow Aga has covered, touched most of the questions. So my last question is from Imran, actually Tanzim. So he's saying, if you have to redesign your website for better UX, and you have a bunch of user tracking videos of recent website, how do you proceed to analyze them? And when you say the tracking videos, I'm guessing this is from Hotjar, or Yours, yeah, maybe Hotjar. Is that right, Tanzim? Okay, so yeah, so Aga, do you want to answer that? I think it comes to user design, user experience, UX design to us, I think, but you can answer and then I can.
Yeah, do you mind repeating question? Sorry again. What is it?
So he's saying that if they want to redesign a website for better UX, they have already some data about user tracking videos from the recent current website. How do you proceed to analyze those?
Okay, so you've got already data from some tracking. I know that it might be as hard as training. It would be worth to watch several of those. If it's recorded, because I assume it is recorded. If not, and you've got some data and you see that there are some ARAS, for example, as you mentioned, for the eye tracking that they are mostly looking at, your next question is why. And if you understand really why, and again, watching the videos will tell you, and watching the recordings which help you to understand a little bit of that. But maybe after that, it will be worth to, again, do some user testing, but with a real person, not only the eye tracking or not only the data you're having on the screen from X amount of users. Maybe you just need some human insights into that. Maybe you just need another real person. So I think, yeah, again, it really depends on what you try to achieve and which data already you're having and in which format, because believe me, like eye tracking could be also like in different formats presented. But I would assume, first of all, understanding which is the hot era, why is it a hot era at this case, and checking what is over there, like on this page right now. But before redesigning and before going any further, I would still talk to several of the people just to make sure that what you're assuming and what you're having from the eye tracking data is correct. And later, I would just kind of like understand and analyze the answers from the real people as well, start to redesign it. And the moment you're starting to redesign it just a bit, test it again. And check if you're getting any different number, any different data. And if you do, and if it's, because I don't know what your goal is, obviously, but if it's fitting your goal, then do the next step, redesign it even more, and you know, add the new things, add the new elements to the page, and again, test it again. And I know it sounds like a mantra, like you're doing it again and again and again, but it makes sense. If you just at the one stage you would redesign everything, well, it's like an A/B testing, right? Like if you change one small thing on a website, you can really understand if this thing is working. So if they are like two different short text on a web page and one is not attractive for the users and the people don't feel, you know, that they are attracted by it, but the other one seems to work, it means that, you know, that particular piece of the invitation or of the text is really inviting, and that is a change. But if you change everything, then you think like, okay, well, so what actually was this thing that kind of made this converse for the bigger sales? You know what I mean? Like just step by step, just to make sure that everything you are doing is really making some change. So you're not just redesigning for redesigning's sake or because you think it's right. Just step by step, and after every step you're doing, just try to test it. If that makes sense.
I also want to add in here that like sometimes when we pick up some projects, we first of all we contact our optimization team, so to look for some data, and they provide us Google Analytics data or Hotjar data, and any other data if they have.
That's a great point. That's a great point of view. That's maybe you just need maybe just eye tracking is just not enough. Maybe you just need some extra data just to understand it, and just cross different findings from different data as well. That's a great point.
So and then once we get all this data, first we analyze and to see what these data are saying or telling us. So if we see that okay, that's enough, it is giving us some sense of like what is happening in the website, that's fine. If not, then actually we dig down more, which means we involve or engage our UX research team, CX research, so that they can do more on a specific particular, that area, like maybe do another usability testing to validate that problem, or maybe if we need to know more about the human behavior around that situation, then we also, Aga and the team also helps us. So yeah. So Tanzim actually mentioned here, thank you for the answer. Yes, using Hotjar, we have got the videos, right? So this is what we did.
Okay, here we go. Yeah,
so
I think
when you see the heat map of the videos, you know what is the problem. And then if you are okay, that's the problem. Like if you are 100% sure, then you can move from there. If not sure, then you can do some little more research on that specific problem that you are not sure about.
Exactly. Go step by step and just try understand, because it seems like sometimes we feel like, oh, okay, so here we go, we've got all the answers. But that's not, it could be not always the case, or maybe, you are a little bit skewed and you think you've got all the answers, but maybe they're a little bit different. So just make always sure just to double check everything. And because, as I mentioned, like the wrong research could actually be quite harmful. And I hope I proved it today 2 or 3 times. So yeah, take your time for the research and make sure it's as good as it should be.
Cool. Thank you, Aga. Actually, Imran has mentioned that. Thank you so much, Aga, for the answer. These guys.
Thank you. And I'm so sorry, guys. I know I'm talking too much. It's just, I should, believe me, when I do research, I listen a lot. It's more about listening than talking. But because I normally has to listen, so I just took my chance to talk a little bit more. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for the great questions.
Thank you, Aga. It's actually 10 past 12 in the morning now. So I would like to thank Aga, especially because she has more than 2
it's
hours.
A pleasure.
Even though I mentioned her to be 1 hour session, followed by like half an hour session, but just too long. And thanks to everyone who participated today. And
thank you, guys. Absolutely. Thanks so much.
Yeah, because
thank you.
all these
Your questions have been amazing. Go ahead. No. Go ahead, Asif.
Now, I'm just saying, like, these questions really helped. Like, maybe it's your question, but it's actually from other people's question as well. So the questions are really helpful. And then I think Aga has explained very nicely, and it's meaningful.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be here, and thank you for the questions. If you feel like there's something you'd like to understand a little bit more, just poke me, just find me online, and we can discuss it if you need any of my help. Oh, maybe you need a researcher in your team. So yeah.
I think the reason we have done this session from Distorted Designers because we know that the UX research is very important, right? UX, well, I mean, I'm just saying UX because it's very meaningful to the people. So if those who are planning, those who are UX designer want to do a little bit of UX research, because it's a problem sometimes in a company, they don't have budget. So UX designers who want to do some research, please go ahead. And then if someone here from a company want to establish UX research or hire one researcher, this is also be helpful. I think this session. So that is the main reason to bring someone in this webinar who can actually explain, and she's from a different background, giving you a hope that anyone can be a UX researcher. You just need a passion. Yeah.
That's a beautiful point. Everyone can be a UX researcher. We are researching basically every day something, right? It's all about the right questions you're asking. So just start asking those questions.
Thank you, Aga. It's such a pleasure to meet you and get to know you, and your expertise. So thank you everyone who joined here today and learned from Aga. So we are waiting for our next webinar. So till then, goodbye.
Yeah, so our next webinar will be on design language system by Shabir Bhai. So we'll let you know the date and time soon. So he has prepared, I think he has finished the whole session. And it will it will be a little bit different session again and kind of like practical. We know that design language system is getting popular and it's very useful for any team or company. And a lot of people have questions that how we want to start, how we can talk to our bosses so that they agree with these things. So Shabir will cover everything, and he will have some other tutorials with the live projects. So please stay in touch with us, and then we'll announce very soon.
Yep.
Shabir, do you want to say anything?
Not really. I'm just like others. I'm also very curious to show what this design system to everyone. So hopefully, end of the day, end of this month, I will come in this webinar as well. So
End of July.
Yeah, absolutely, July.
Yeah.
But for today's session, I would like to thanks to Aga. Thanks a lot for this session. It was a very informative session for us.
Thank you. I really hope that every one of you found something, at least like a small piece for them.
Yeah, I hope.
Yeah, it was really a good session. Anyway, thank you very much, everyone.
I'm still no one told me.
Good. And then we're finishing now. Thanks, everyone. Bye.